As the nation reviews its 2025 expenditures and rolls out the 2026 budget, it becomes imperative to highlight state budgets as well. And on Breakfast Central or News Central, we have decided to take time to analyze these budgets. Cross River State's 2026 budget shows substantial increases in key social sectors, notably education, health, and human development. The social sector allocation rises from 69.23 billion naira in the 2025 revised budget to 13.32 billion naira in 2026, an increase of over 44 billion. Well, let's also tell you that what you can see on the screen there also has what you find in 2025 and what you now find in 2026 that's been approved. Take a look at Ministry of Sports. From 927 million naira approved in 2025, you now have 2.91 billion naira in 2026 already approved. And the list goes on. Now, one that may interest you as well is that of humanitarian affairs, 798 million naira and approved to 1.214 billion naira. However, let's tell you that the January to September 2025 performance figures raises concerns about execution, just like we've seen in recent times. Ministry of Agriculture, not forgetting to the recent one, yes, from Agriculture, saying they've not received anything and so on. But let's focus on Cross River for a minute. Several ministries recorded very low utilization rates despite large allocations. Let's tell you some more and what you need to know as well.
Of course, the Cross River House of Assembly is projected to spend 17.26 billion in 2026, including approximately 3.53 billion naira on travel and training alone. A figure that exceeds the allocation to the state's primary healthcare development agency and nearly doubles the health insurance scheme budget. You can see the numbers on the screen and what they're saying. Ministry of Justice in 2025 had 2.049 billion naira approved, but revised to 2.114 billion naira. And in between January and September, we could see 5 million naira performed and 1.700 billion naira approved, and obviously there was a decrease. So you see the numbers: Ministry of Justice, Regional Sector, Social Sector, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, and Ministry of Environment. And what we've seen is a decrease, increase, major increase, increase, and mixed in the Ministry of Environment. Now, this raises broader questions about spending priorities, fiscal discipline, and alignment with citizens' needs. Joining us to discuss this is the social editor at GST, Koforola Odozi, and joining us is public affairs analyst Jide Ojo. Koforola Odozi joins us from our Abuja studio, and Jide Ojo joins us virtually. Good morning, lady and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a pleasure.
Good to have you. I'll begin with you, Koforola. How credible is a 2026 expansion when 2025 budget performance appears significantly low across several ministries? And, just give us your general overview of. We've been talking about budgets for weeks on this show, but let's get your sense of a general overview of how you perceive our budgets and how well or not well we're performing.
So by September 2025, as you showed on the screen, the budget performance was at 44 billion naira. And then what we're seeing from the projection for 2026 is 670 billion naira. And so that is a 15-fold increase from the year before. And to try and double or do an extensive stretch of the budget for a new year when we were barely able to hit 30% of utilization of the last budget, it doesn't speak to a state that actually is interested in development plans and actually moving the life of its constituents further, because it's like you didn't even reach 70% utilization capacity last year. So who says that tripling the budget or expanding it will allow you to actually reach your target this year?
Right. I'd also now bring Mr. Jide Ojo into the conversation as well. Let's get your thoughts of the budget. We've heard Koforola's standpoint. Let's see if you have a different opinion.
Thank you. You see, one thing we need to understand is that budget is an estimate, and there is never a precision in terms of revenue and expenditure. It's a moving target, and you are just working on presumption, because that's why you see oil benchmark, exchange rates, assumptions, all of them. how much revenue is expected, projected revenue, projected expenditure. I recall that under the immediate past administration of Professor Ben Ayade, there was even a time that he released a budget of over 1 trillion. And I laughed because the state wasn't going to get 1/3 of that amount under Buhari administration. So why don't you want to just have a laudable paper tiger that just have figures, very bogus figures on paper, but in reality, you are going to be miles away from achieving that target. So you need to bring it closer home. These are projections. I agree with Kofo that budget implementation has been a very sticky issue in Nigeria, whether you're talking about federal, state, or local government. In fact, in local governance system, there is even no budgeting at all. The local government chairpersons just spend as they get, as their lordship places at the state government quarters, because it's the governor that controls the budget on behalf of the state, which is why the federal government went to court to challenge the local government autonomy, financial autonomy, which we know has not been implemented. So I'm waiting to see a local government that could say, yes, we have a budget for a particular year. These are the spending, expenditure, and all of that. But having said that, when you come back to issue of priority areas, I think what Prince Basil too is trying to do is to make his state House of Assembly happy. Don't forget the election is next year, and he doesn't want to incur the wrath of this. And this is also an assumption on my part. So when you see an exponential increase in the amount budgeted for the state House of Assembly in billions, perhaps they need to show something they are doing to their different constituencies. So a larger chunk of that amount will possibly be for constituency projects so that they can have something to campaign in getting a re-election. We do know that for State House of Assembly, for National Assembly, there is no term limit. So in a pre-election year, you want to make your State House of Assembly happy. But that is not even to say that this projected envelope for the State House of Assembly or for any of the ministries, departments, and agencies will be released. We do know that budget estimate passed and approved is not tantamount to you getting the exact sum. Many a time, we have had, even at the federal level, ministers complaining that their money was hanging. The Office of Accountant General, the Office of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Ministry of Finance are not releasing what is due to them in their ministries, departments, and agencies. Recall that on the street of Abuja, we have recently local contractors protesting that the promised amount has not been released to them. So one thing is to you even have a budget, whether it's increased or tripled or major increase or whatever. One thing is to have that increase. Another thing is cash backing. Do they get cash backed? Does these ministries, departments, and agencies, do they get full complement of whatever is approved for them in the state budget? The answer is no. I know from experience that many of them have to lobby, do all sorts of things to get a sizable sum of their approved budgets released to them. Because budgets, like I said from the beginning, is an estimate. So if you go to the Office of Accountant General, Office of Minister, Commissioner for Finance, it will say to you, once we have allocation, we will treat these files, we will pay this sum, but we cannot give everybody what they need at the same time. So the amount is usually prorated based on income flows. So we need to bear that in mind, that whatever we are discussing in terms of budget projections, in terms of approved budget, is still a far cry from getting cash back, that same amount getting released to them. So that has been my own experience in terms of public finance in Nigeria. you have an amount approved for you, but after a 12 calendar month, you may be lucky to get 60% of that approved sum released to you for anything you
Now,
want to.
Mr. Ojo, I would like to stay with you for a bit before we go to Koforola in Abuja. I believe the budget you were talking about, Benayade's budget, was a 2018 budget of kinetic crystallization. It was 1.3 trillion naira. I wonder how much actualization he did in that year. But talking about, and I like the background that you've given us about this budget just being promises on paper. My question is, these budgets, do they also factor in internal generated revenue, or is based on projections of money they will receive from FAC allocations?
So my own experience is this. Usually they also have an expected income in terms of IGR, aside from the FAC allocations. Again, do you know for a fact that FAC allocation is not static? It's not like if you get 3 trillion or assuming you get as a state, you get 200 billion this month. You may get less, you may get more the following month. So there's actually no certainty how much you get from FAC allocation. It can only be projected. The second aspect, which speaks directly to your question, is also the issue of IGR. Yes, states will get IGR, but that is also projected estimated income, because take for instance, if you project that you are going to collect X amount in taxes or levies or in terms of royalty, you may not be able to get all of these projected sums for one reason or the other. Let me give you a very classical example. When the budget for 2020 was being prepared in 2019, no state in Nigeria, not even the federal government of Nigeria, emphasized that there was going to be COVID-19. But then COVID-19 came. Most of our projected revenue, projected income never materialized. Budget had to be scaled down because of COVID-19. So it does happen that there are so many unintended consequences. There could be conflicts, there could be issues of capacity to even collect. And now it's even more dicey that we have a national tax law in place. I don't know how much of harmonization has come with our tax system with this new omnibus tax law that has been in place, because I recall that Taiwo Oyedele, chairman of the presidential task force on tax reform, talking about state House of Assembly having to pass certain legislation to bring their tax law in sync with that of the federal government. That in itself means that there are some revenues that are currently being collected by the state government that the federal government may start to collect from this 2026. It then means that most of the projected revenue in terms of IGR may also not be may not be achieved if the federal government takes over the collection of this revenue. Take, for instance, the issue of VAT. Usually it's the states that collect VAT and remit. But now I think VAT will have to be collected centrally, because now we don't have Federal Inland Revenue Service, we have the National Revenue Service. And some of these tax collections, some of these levies will now have to be collected by the federal authorities and then put in a distributable pool.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing. Let me go to Koforola very quickly. Kofo, I mean, we're out of time, unfortunately. First of all, kudos to the good work GST is doing, spotlighting some of these budgets, taking them one state at a time. I do have a list here. It talks about the major allowance breakdown, and I want to mention quickly. Domestic servant allowance goes to 75.48 million naira. We also see transport allowance, 68.72 million naira per person. If you come down to medical and security, 5.35 million naira. How many people in Cross River would have access to such humongous or huge amount? And what do you say about the budget in terms of the people? Is it a people-friendly budget?
I think as Julia said earlier on, budgets are a moral document. They represent the state's how the state interprets the care they have for their constituents. And so, if you take the allocation for health, for example, and you see that we have 4 million people there, and they've allocated an amount that would come down to 1,300 naira per person per year, you start to understand that on what scale will 1,000 naira do in the health sector for one person for you? You can't even buy malaria drug for 1,000 naira. So when you break it down like that, when you break it down into the granular numbers of how this will affect each individual member of the state and according to the budget, you understand that no, really, they have not actually factored in the care of the people, and they've prioritized the comforts of the elites in how they've allocated money in this budget.
Okay. I mean, just to wrap things up as well, just in 30 seconds, Mr. Jide Ojo, I think I'd like to get yours in 30 seconds, please, because we're out of time before I also listen to Kufrola once more. What's the way forward in ensuring that budgets like this, when they are passed, they trickle down to the people? We've seen what's happening on the national level. Just yesterday, or just this week, the agricultural sector did come out to say that no monies have been given to them, even from the top, nothing from the federal government, even though it was budgeted for.
Really, you know what you should start in preparing budget, there should be what's called need assessment. You need to assess the needs of the people. That's why you need to go to them. Communities by communities, what are your needs? Do you need road? Do you need water? Do you need electricity? It's not to just put an amount in the budget and presume that that's what you have put in the budget is actually what the people of the state needs. So until when you change that orientation of just an envelope system where you just minus and plus for every year, irrespective of whether what you are even planning in terms of capital projects are what the people in different communities need, there will be no trickle down. So the best thing is to have budget prepared based on the needs of the communities that make up the state. Once that is done, and then there is proper costing, then you will be speaking to the needs of the people. But like I said, most important factor in budgeting is implementation. We have seen at the federal level a lot of talks about rollover of capital expenditure from 2024 to 2025 to 2026, which is not an ideal thing. So you need to really tailor implementation. Capital expenditure implementation is very significant for there to be a trickle down to the various communities at the grassroots.
All right, Kufrola, you want to wrap it up as well? What it needs to be done to ensure it trickles down to the people?
Sure, accountability and understanding that there is FOI Act where you can actually ask the government not just where did this money go, but what did this money actually do? We can actually follow up, because if you check a lot of states no longer update their public dashboards to show you what the allocated monies are actually used for. So I think there is an importance for we people to understand that this is our right. Like, it's our right to follow up on the budget and the allocated money. It's not just reserved for activities. It is an act that you have to do.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I mean, just to quickly wrap things up, Kofo, how do we ensure that citizens can track these? I know that your organization does a lot of that, but how can we ensure that citizens are carried along, are able to track, demand accountability, and ask the right questions?
Well, for starters, there's definitely the question of awareness and letting people know that this is something that there is already an existing act that allows you to follow up with your House of members, follow up with your governors and ask them, the money that was budgeted, what did it do? Where did it go to? Because something that we've been seeing in the past with the budget is that different people allocated different things, but then at the end of the year, at the end of the review period, is like, what did these people do? And then when there is no report, there is no budget cuts, there is no deep scrutiny of the work that was done, So it's very important that we as citizens understand that it is our right to follow up with the allocated monies and ask, where did this actually go and what did this actually do? Who are the people that were impacted? Where are the communities that you said you did boreholes for? Where did you do the healthcare system? Which hospitals did you equip? So it is our right as people and as citizens to follow up and ask the specific questions.
Nigerians will wake up and just know that they have an act to follow up, especially with the House of Rep members, not forget to Assembly members, even the governors, asking what was done with the budgets that were put in place, or rather just, maybe just keep short and hope and pray that something will change for the better.
Short too.
Always pray. Thank you so much, Mr. Jidojo, for joining us and sharing insights into this. And thank you so much as well, Koforola, for being here with us and from GST. Great job you guys are doing once again. Thank you so much.